Now, real people, real opinions. Nighttime talk with Niall Boylan.
Ireland's classic hits radio.
There has been a huge controversy at a time when Britain is in the pan financially and they're in political unrest and the country is falling apart at the seams. The top story on the news constantly over the last 2 days is Greg Wallace. And I can't help but think it's a little bit of an overreaction. Yes, he shouldn't have done that. I'm certainly not going to defend his behaviour. But in saying that, it's not the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, actually made an official statement about it. I mean, what's going on when the Prime Minister of Britain is making an official statement in the House of Parliament in relation to a television presenter who made a misogynistic remark? You know what I mean? I think we're losing sight of what's really, really important in this world. And I'm not suggesting that's not important and people shouldn't be doing things like that. Of course they shouldn't. I mean, there's been more controversy over the BBC this time. Greg Wallace, presenter of MasterChef, and I'm sure you've watched it. He's kind of real British, isn't he? Very old school. He's one of these kind of guys who grew up with the Carry On movies and Benny Hill and all that kind of stuff. There have been now 13 accusations of inappropriate sexual innuendo. Now, remember what he's accused of. He's not accused of touching anybody or feeling anybody or doing anything sexual like that. Of sexual innuendo. They showed a clip there last night on the television and he was, I don't know, doing a menu for something or whatever, and he was putting, flour and salt and salt and some flour in, 2 fat ladies or whatever, And I go, because he was putting the eggs in or something like that, he put 2 fat ladies. And then they brought on a woman who had worked with him on occasion, and I think she's one of the people who made one of the accusations against him. And they suggested, this is what they said, one of his victims. And I go, hold on a second here now. What he did was inappropriate and wrong, but she's hardly a victim. I mean, what, is she traumatised for life because of what he said? In what he thought was a light-hearted joke. Clearly she didn't take it as a joke, and clearly it wasn't a joke on a live television show. It shouldn't have been. It was inappropriate because of the type of show it is. On other shows it would be more suitable. Like if you watch one of those panel shows where there's constant innuendo and constant sexual connotations and stuff like that, you expect it on those shows. You don't expect it, I suppose, on MasterChef. But people know what Greg Wallace is like. That's the type of person he is. He makes those kind of misogynistic remarks on a regular basis. I mean, admittedly, the comment won't do him any favours, the comments. But is it enough to warrant the reaction that we're seeing at the moment? Now, the BBC have pulled the Christmas special. And it's been pulled off the Christmas schedule. Now, they did, as far as I know, last night show the semi-finals because the rights... I don't watch the programme, so I don't know very much about it. I believe they're coming up to the final. So they're probably going to show that. But he has stepped down temporarily. Now, when I say temporarily... I don't think it's temporarily. I think it's for good. Because they're now calling for him to be cancelled completely. Now, I would understand that if it was sexual assault. And not that he was accused. I would never understand, by the way, somebody being cancelled for an accusation. I mean, being found guilty of sexual assault. But for sexual innuendo, which is locker room talk. Is that what it is? Is that the good word for it? Inappropriate in certain circumstances, particularly in a live television show, that type of show. But is it a cancelable offence? It's not illegal, by the way, can I point out? There's nothing illegal about it. So why there's such a big hoo-ha about it and we're bringing on people on television going, you're one of his victims? It, to me, blows my mind. Now, it didn't help him, of course, that he put an apology out. And in the apology, he said the complainants were middle-class women of a certain age. He then later apologised for the apology and said that he's being very stressed, and I can imagine he is, and he feels the world is against him, and that's when he made those comments. He made them off the top of his head and shouldn't have said what he said. But I want to get your reaction to it. I don't know, have you been watching the news in relation to this? Is it an overreaction, or do you think the reaction is right? Is it time that this kind of behaviour, some people would call it misogynistic behaviour, is removed from television completely? Should the BBC have pulled all the Christmas schedule of MasterChef, not just the ones they're planning on pulling? Or should they wait until the investigation is completed? Let me know what you think. The number is, as usual, 087 188 0008. Jessica, hi, how are you?
Hiya.
How you doing, Jessica? I won't use any innuendos, Jessica, just in case.
No, but who hasn't made a double entendre? You know what I mean?
People do it all the time.
Look at what's her name? Nigella. Have you ever heard the way she speaks? It's all sexual.
Who?
Nigella, what's her last name?
Who?
The one who's in the microwave.
In the what?
Do you know I still know her name. I don't know her last name. Nigella something.
Oh, Nigella Lawson. Nigella Lawson.
Yeah, her. Have you ever heard the way she speaks? It's almost.
Well, okay,
like,
so here's what they
popcorn.
talk about, okay? There's a thing in media called audience expectation. Now, for example, if you listen to this nighttime talk show, you expect some people might use bad language. You expect the topics to be a little bit controversial. So there's an audience expectation. But they say the argument is there isn't an audience expectation on this show of that type of language or that type of behaviour. And that type of behaviour is outdated. It's misogynistic and it's wrong to be making sexual remarks towards women. What?
Has he not been hosting it for years, though?
He has.
No, I don't know.
Yeah, he has.
I don't know who he is. So why have they not come to realise, this is him, this is how he talks, this is his humour? How has that not come to be expected?
Well, I thought they kind of had it. I thought they kind of knew. You know what I mean? I mean, they do know what he's like. So, they know the type of person he is. I mean, who's that other geezer that I can never think of names? You know the guy who wears the bandages on his hand? He does the quiz show with the woman that used to be on the breakfast show with your man with the grey hair. I can never think of people's names. What?
No, I'm not sure you're on about.
Oh, he's young, right? Somebody is going to actually text in the answer to what I'm actually talking about. He's the guy with the kind of reddy, blondie hair, wild hair. He has bandages on his fingers. And he does the program with the blondie one who used to be on with Philip Schofield. What's her name? Who's the blondie one who's on with Philip?
No one's coming to me.
Yeah, Keith Lemon and Holly Willoughby. Thank you very much indeed, Molly. Keith Lemon. Have you ever watched that program with Keith Lemon and Holly Willoughby? That's a panel show. It's constant sexual innuendo. Constant.
But I've never watched them.
I mean, what I'm saying. So there's audience expectation. People know it's going to be like that. It's constant sexual innuendo all the time. All the time. They had the two girls kneeling down trying to bite a banana, or between some lad's legs. I mean. That's the type of show it is. It's all innuendo, constant innuendo. This program shouldn't be like that, but he's that type of person that he makes these remarks. Now, he shouldn't. I'm not suggesting, I'm not encouraging it, but is it a bit of an overreaction?
It is, and to say victim, it's actually a bit insulting to real victims of actual
sexual assault. Yeah, I would imagine so. The word's getting flung around now a bit too much. To the point that it's how do we know what a real victim is now? Anyone can cry, especially with the way that things are. Anyone can cry victim. He's on the front of every newspaper in the UK today. And there have been now 13 accusations of inappropriate sexual innuendo. That just means he said something. And the fact that Starmer made a statement about it in Parliament, well, you would imagine the leader of the country has more important things to be doing. You would imagine so, wouldn't you? Yeah. It's just a slow day for him. He's like, you know what? I'm going to speak about this. I don't know. I just think it's a bit of an overreaction. It's just. No, if there's anybody who thinks that I'm wrong in this, and if people want to come on, obviously, and say, yeah, look, now that time is gone. People shouldn't be behaving like that on television. That kind of language shouldn't be used at all. That kind of locker talk on television. I'd like to hear that too. Stay there for a second. Let me just go to Susan. Susan, hi, how are you?
Huh?
Hello, Susan. Oh, jeez. Susan, are you there?
I'm here. I'm ready for action.
Right, okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, you're doing a collection.
I'm ready for action.
Oh, you're ready for action. Okay, Susan, do you watch MasterChef?
Yeah. Sorry about that. Yes, Steady and me, we used to watch MasterChef together, and I think it's totally blown out of all proportion.
Okay, so
in my opinion.
Yeah, you know what Greg Wallace is like then.
Yeah, I know the guy. I know the baldy guy with glasses.
Yeah,
yes, I know him of old.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's been around a long time.
I'm not saying baldy in a derogatory way.
No, I know. Yeah, you're just identifying him. Yeah, there's a bit of an innuendo there. Yeah, but you're just identifying him. Yeah.
Thank you. Have a lovely evening.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Niall. Sorry. I'm talking to somebody else. Mate,
Yeah, I'd rather you just talk to me just for the moment, if you could.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Please. Okay. Okay.
So
you and you alone right now, Niall.
okay, no, just you
So
and me.
listen to me.
Yeah.
You and me are just together. So now I think it was blown out of all proportion. I don't think he should be thrown off the show. I think it's a little bit like Phil, if I may say so, and Holly, but maybe that was a little bit more serious what happened there.
Well, that was a bit more serious, in fairness. Yes.
Yeah, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on air. I don't want to put my foot in it, as I always do.
No, I understand what you're saying about Phil and Holly, but in saying that, what happened with Phil and Holly, well, not so much Holly, but certainly with Phil, was a little bit more serious than that. Yeah,
but I don't think you need to pry into somebody's private life. But it wasn't his private life, because he was doing it on air, and he was saying, I fancy you, or he was mixing up the eggs and saying, you and me, we're going to mix these eggs together.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know what he was saying. I didn't hear it. I don't really know.
There was innuendo in it because he thought he was being funny. Yeah. And some people probably do think he is funny. I don't know.
Yeah. So it's kind of a little bit of titillation is the wrong word.
No, that's not a bad word. That's not a bad word. It's okay.
Yeah, titillation's when I clean up a house. But he was just being a little bit naughty but nice. I don't think he meant it really in a dreadful sexual way. I don't think he was being pervy about it, was he? Maybe he was.
Well, from what I've seen in the clips I've seen, they didn't come across as pervy. They came across, I suppose, if you want to call it misogynistic, people call it that. That's the word they use for it. And it was sexual innuendo.
Oh, so like male chauvinistic, kind of looking down at women.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I suppose that's... But isn't that the way some women are looking at it? Not all, obviously.
Yeah. I suppose the women's slippers would be looking at it like that, wouldn't they?
Possibly. Yeah. Their argument is, the time for that kind of stuff is gone. You're not supposed to behave like that in television anymore. I've seen. Don't get me wrong. I've seen
the dolls sometimes.
I've seen a lot worse than him, by the way, and I've seen women a lot worse than him. Behaving like that on television.
Women coming on to men and thinking, that's great, there's a laugh.
Yeah.
Well, I know.
That's very good impersonation you're doing there, by the way.
Yeah, the way ladies would be saying, the way they'd be flirting with men and thinking, that's okay, I can do that. But the men get a raw deal. The men aren't allowed to do nothing nowadays.
So do you think it's unfair what's happening to him? He's been cancelled, essentially.
He's been taken off the show. Well, listen, Niall, I've had a little bit of bother myself with different jobs where I've done inappropriate behaviour and I've been thrown out, but they've only been little cleaning jobs. They haven't been major jobs on television.
What did you do that was inappropriate that you were chucked out?
Well, so showing somebody a naughty picture from a magazine, and saying, wouldn't you love a body like that?
Right.
So that was investigated, that was put on trial, and I was thrown out. And then,
so what, you showed somebody a picture on your phone, I assume? Yeah.
On the phone? No, in a magazine.
In a magazine. And you said, I wouldn't mind a body like that.
Yeah.
And you were chucked out because of that?
I was chucked out, because that was inappropriate. Well, it was quite a naughty magazine, so it was inappropriate behaviour. So, you see, that's the thing nowadays, Niall. Things have changed. You can't say to somebody, hey, look at this nude lady. I'd like to look like her, would you? Because that's big offence to that person then, and they don't like that. So that's investigated. And when it's investigated and then it goes to disciplinary, once it goes to disciplinary, you're out. So I don't want to say that man is gone. But if it's gone in investigation, I don't think it's looking great.
No, it's not looking good.
But I hope he's not gone.
Jessica,
I hope he's not
Jessica,
gone.
if somebody in work said to you, look at this nudie lady in the magazine here in the nip, Jay, she looks good, I wouldn't mind looking like her, would you complain about it?
No.
There's more serious things that you can complain about. Just words. Just let them roll off your back.
Yeah.
Like water off duck's back.
But see, I suppose some people take things more seriously than others, don't they? Some people are a bit more sensitive than others.
I think it's a sensitivity thing.
Yeah. Well, hang on. Stay there, Susan and Jessica. Let me just go to Siobhan. Siobhan, hi. How are you?
Hi, Niall. How are you?
I'm good, Siobhan. Siobhan, do you watch MasterChef?
No. Greg's on it. No, I don't watch it. No.
Okay. Yeah, but you're aware of the story that's going around now, aren't you? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. God, poor fella. I feel so sorry for him. like a witch hunt, isn't it?
But-
I think if all these people have such a problem with him, why did they open their mouths years ago? And you want Melanie Sykes, what is she going on about? She assaulted her husband, so...
Well, they're saying they couldn't say anything at the time because he held such a high position in the show that they felt they couldn't complain about it.
Well, you can always complain, can't you? They didn't complain because of the effect that it would have had on their own careers. That's why they didn't complain. But they could have complained if they wanted to, because they felt so strongly about it and what he was doing was wrong at the time, and they should have opened their mouths and said something.
Mm.
Now it's just everybody jumping on the bandwagon. It's a bit like if I said, you know, something about you, and then another girl comes into the room and she says, oh yeah, I met you years ago, it was right, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? It holds no weight now, really, because did it really happen? Did it not? How would you know? I do genuinely feel sorry for the poor chap. That's his career over now because of what? For a few rude innuendos.
Yeah, well, yeah, some of them allegedly were quite crude. I haven't heard them all. I've only heard one or two of them, and Susan mentioned one or two of them there a few minutes ago, yeah.
Absolutely bonkers. I mean, I've done a few myself over the years.
Yeah, but you're not live on television.
No, I'm not live on television, no, but I could have offended people easily, you know, if they'd been little snowflakes. But I don't think...
So what, this is kind of some sort of level of wokeism, is it?
Yes, it is. Of course it is. The world is going mad, honestly.
Well, here I have 3 women on the air, and what he's accused of is misogyny. You know, and they're saying this is not the way men should behave anymore, but I have 3 women on the air defending him.
We're not defending him, but it's just saying that the crime doesn't really, the punishment, you know, it's a bit much, isn't it, to lose his career, and my God, calm down, people.
Yeah, I thought the way the news media are handling it seems a little bit over the top for what he's actually done. Again, I'm not defending what he's done, but the idea that, you know, the headline would be 13 accusations of inappropriate sexual innuendo suggests that something worse went on. It was only words, right? Well, that's what we're aware of is only words. And then they interviewed one of them there today, one of the women who worked with him many years ago, and she had a lot to say given out. And they introduced her as one of his victims.
Victim, I'll give over. It's not a victim. It makes a mockery of a real victim, you know, of a sexual attack or something. It's ridiculous. And then John Turow's wife, John Turowd, he was the other presenter, wasn't he?
I don't know all the presenters on it. I know of Greg Wallace, all right.
No, she's come out and said that he made inappropriate comments and all that. Well, why didn't John Turowd pull him up on it years ago? It's bonkers. It really is. It's a lot of people jumping on the bandwagon now because they feel that that's how they should behave. You know?
They're also now giving out about his apology. He put an apology up yesterday saying the complainants are all middle-class women of a certain age. Now, I understand what he was trying to say, but he just said it all wrong. But here's the thing. He put out another apology today, apologising for the previous apology, saying that he felt under attack and the world was against him. And I can understand why he would feel like that. You know what I mean? He kind of just reacted, I suppose, and said the first thing to come into his head, which wasn't probably the cleverest thing in the world to do.
Well, he responded, didn't he, to the allegations before his PR people told him to say nothing.
Yeah. That's exactly what happened.
He absolutely jumped the gun then and defended himself, you know, for what he had said. Maybe that was a poor move because that will affect him. Of course it will. But would you have believed it if he'd have come out with a load of tripe? You know, once he had spoken to the PR people, once he'd become their puppet? No. Terrible what's happening to him, you know. And then look at your man Hugh Edwards, whatever his name was, the newsreader.
Yeah.
Well, you know, God almighty, and nothing's said about him now, you know.
Yeah. I, to be honest with you, the news probably wasn't as much about Hugh Edwards, and Hugh Edwards actually did do something very wrong.
Yeah, he was disgraceful, so it was absolutely dreadful what he did, and he should have been punished for what he did. And this poor chap, he hasn't touched anybody, like you said. He hasn't touched anybody.
Just words. It's words.
He's just offended somebody with his jokes. And one of the girls that I work with actually said something similar to what you said earlier on about he comes from a generation that did watch the Carry On film. My dad, the sexual innuendos that came out of my father's mouth, he didn't do it to offend anybody, but he would have.
He was it was a kind of man of his time, that type of man. Yeah, I understand. Anyway, listen, I've got to take a break. Siobhan and Susan, thank you very much indeed. Keep texting, keep WhatsApping. The number's 087 188 0008. I think I'm going to struggle to find somebody who actually agrees with the reaction to this story. I mean, don't get me wrong. Again, nobody's defending his behaviour, and his behaviour by the standards of 2024 is clearly wrong. He's a 60-year-old man of his time that grew up as Siobhan said, watching Benny Hill and Carry On movies and that kind of comedy and he believed he was being funny. And the argument is, well, why didn't somebody say something at the time instead of waiting, 13 or whatever it is, so many years to actually say something about it? And as somebody rightly said, well, maybe they valued their careers at the time and they thought that, well, you can't give out about the boss, so to speak, because he was the head guy, he was the star of the show. But look, surely a producer or somebody, if they weren't happy with what he was saying and the way he behaved and those remarks that he made, those kind of sexual innuendo remarks, some of them would have been a bit crude, I imagine. But it's not a crime to make remarks or to make sexual innuendos, locker room talk, whatever. It's not a crime. There's no crime involved here. But yet it's being treated like he's actually committed a serious crime. All right, keep texting, keep WhatsApping. Somebody says, how does telling women that you're not wearing any boxing shorts, how is that appropriate? It's not appropriate. I have clearly said that on numerous occasions. The stuff that he says isn't appropriate for the type of show it is. It would be appropriate in other shows that are covered in innuendos. But for that particular show, which is a family show, it isn't appropriate. Because people who are working on it aren't aware that that's the kind of thing they might be subjected to. All I'm saying is it's not a crime either. And it's kind of rightly pointed out in a text here. The show is not live, I assume. I don't think it is live. So directors and producers would look at the final cut and they seem to sensationalise these parts of the show where he says these type of things, which kind of leads me to believe that they played a part in that as well, if you really want to take people down. But the listener who said about the boxer shorts, I completely agree with you. It's not appropriate. It wouldn't be appropriate to say that, say, on the Late Late Show, for example, or on the news, or on prime time, or whatever. But it would be appropriate to say it on that show I was talking about earlier on with Holly Willoughby and your man. So that would be appropriate because that's the type of behaviour they get up to in that particular type of show. And people expect that. It comes down to what I said earlier on, audience expectation. And if you go to work on that show, you should be aware of the type of show it is. That there's an audience expectation. Like, for example, I mentioned earlier on, people come onto this show and they use bad language. You wouldn't use bad language, say, on another show during the day. Not everybody uses bad language, by the way. Some people do. But there's an audience expectation that people who listen to the show know the type of show it is. They know people would argue with each other, and they know now and again people might use bad language. It's after 9 o'clock at night, and they know that happens. So that's what they call audience expectation. They don't expect that from MasterChef. I get that. But it is something that needs to be called out. But is it an overreaction in the way it's being now reported on? Like the crime of the century happened? I don't know. Let me go to... And if anybody wants to come on, by the way, and obviously defend the BBC's position and the media's position in the way they're behaving about it in the UK, I'd love to hear from you as well. Let me go to Jerry. Jerry, hi, how are you?
Hey, I'm not too bad at all.
Yeah, I mean, look, so there's no doubt some of the things he says are crude. He thinks they're funny, but they're crude, and they're innuendos, and they're sexual remarks, it's meant to be a family entertainment program. So there's no doubt that the people who work with him wouldn't expect him to behave like that, but that's the type of person he is, and he's been doing it for years.
Well, but he has been doing it for years, and I think that people are just going over the top. Because, you're talking about, 20 years ago. And like all those particular programs were on television at the time, like the likes of Benny Hill. And, even if you watch the likes of Frankie Boyle today or some of the comedians.
Yeah, but that's appropriate in that setting, isn't it? If you watch Benny Hill, you can still watch Benny Hill on Gold. You know what to expect. If you watch the Carry On movies, you know what to expect. You're going to see Barbara Windsor running around half topless. So you know what to expect. You don't watch them thinking I'm going to watch a nice innocent show here with no sexual innuendo in it. But when you watch MasterChef, I suppose the argument is this is not what I expect.
It's probably not what you expect, but I mean, I think it was in a light-hearted fashion that he was actually saying those innuendo. I don't think there was anything perverse about what he was saying. I just think he was light-hearted, making small jokes. Like, I don't think it was any sexual innuendo in it, although people are saying there was.
Well, there was sexual innuendo. Of course there's sexual innuendo. When you're telling a woman live on television, as somebody mentioned earlier on, I didn't hear that particular remark, that I'm not wearing boxer shorts. So why else would you be telling her that if it wasn't sexual?
Well, look, it's not like he's going to have sex with a woman on stage.
No, I'm not suggesting he is, and I'm not suggesting he did. I'm not suggesting he touched anybody. But I suppose people would say they felt uncomfortable. Now, I don't class them as victims, as one of the newspapers or one of the television stations put it today, because I think that does a disservice to victims of sexual assault or rape or anything like that. But in saying that, they certainly, would have felt embarrassed by his words, maybe sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand it come from that point of view, but I think it was innocent enough for the time he was saying it. Maybe it was inappropriate to say it, but I don't think he's seen anything wrong with it. I don't think it was intentional to hurt anybody or make anybody feel uncomfortable. It was just a light-hearted joke. I mean, I say something for my children sometimes, and I say, oh shit, I shouldn't have said that. And sometimes I have to bite my tongue before I even say it. Because I grew up in that type of era, and sometimes I just bite my tongue and say, shit, I'm not amongst my friends the same age as me. So you just have to bite your tongue. It depends on the company that you're in. He probably wasn't thinking at the time, where he was, and it just came out of his mouth.
Yeah.
Basically, that's.
I mean, a lot of people are coming out now. Kirsty Allsop, as well, is another presenter who's come out and said that he was inappropriate. His words were inappropriate. His comments were inappropriate. And he's ignored his own PR company. Well, that's what he did yesterday when he brought out that apology, which made things worse, by the way. Another person came on Sky News there today and said she was left crying with humiliation after being on the show.
Oh, no, I can't. I mean, for me, that's people are easily offended, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I think in this day and age, you can absolutely say absolutely nothing without somebody being offended. And to go back 19 years, I think everybody's on a witch hunt now to find somebody that did something wrong. And possibly, I don't think what he did was up there in the scale of what others have done and gotten away with, basically. I think there's a witch hunt. You say nothing. I mean, you know what's going on now in the world about taking some of the characters, some of the Disney films, changing characters, changing some of the wording of some of the Disney films. I mean, it's gone way over the top. So I think it's something at the time. I don't think he meant what he was saying. He just sort of came out of his mouth. I don't think it was intention to hurt anybody. It was just a light-hearted joke in his mind. People could have been offended by it at the time, but why did they wait 19 years for?
Now, there are other people who have made other accusations too, but look, we don't know if any of them are true, in relation to him allegedly touching somebody's bottom or something like that. Again, to make those accusations, when you make accusations against somebody, you got to be 100% sure they're true, because otherwise you're sullying somebody's character. Now, I think his character's in tatters now, because his career's now in tatters because of it.
His career might be in tatters. I mean, I think it's very wrong, for the media to report on allegations. I mean, there is a thing that you're innocent until you're proven guilty, and for the media to keep reporting these allegations that haven't been proved, I think it's very, very wrong of the media to do something like that, because none of these allegations have been proven. I can say whatever I want, and as far as I know, the only place you can say things and get away with it is in Leinster House under Dáil privilege.
Or the president's, the Oris as well, by the way.
But I think that's the only place you can actually say something.
You can't. That's right. You can't be done for defamation. I mean, there was one of the claims that I heard, and I don't know how true this one is, right? That they were filming in some supermarket, obviously buying the ingredients or whatever it was. Maybe, I don't know. And one of the women said that he touched her bottom with his waist as he was passing by.
Jesus Christ, no.
Now,
I don't know many times I did that.
Well, I don't know what the circumstances surrounding that were, but he touched her bottom with his waist as he was passing by. Now, I don't know what the circumstances. I don't know whether he did that intentionally or whether he was just passing by or it was a tight squeeze or whatever. I don't know. Like, there's no doubt, he needs to tame his behaviour. And his behaviour is not suitable for the type of show it is, clearly, by 2024 standards. And nobody's defending his behaviour, because this type of behaviour, is widely unacceptable. Unless it's the type of show that accepts that type of behaviour. And there are shows that accept that type of behaviour and people know that. But I just think the reaction to it is kind of maybe off-centre.
No, to say something like, even an allegation to say something like, he touched her bottom with his waist. Have you ever been on the Lewis?
Yeah.
In rush hour?
Yeah.
Well, then you're touching everyone anywhere. And the Lewis when it's crammed at 5 in the evening or 9 o'clock in the morning. People are going to start making allegations with everybody in the Lewis now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, and that's an allegation that could have been totally innocent. He could have been walking past her. Like, that type of allegation, to me, is totally unfair. The people are coming into the woodwork now. I mean, as I say, there's a witch hunt on him. I mean, I know what he said and what he done at the time probably offended people. Without any doubt, it probably did. But I think it wasn't in the same light as the likes of Jimmy Savile or some of the others that were around the same time. I don't.
Well, let's not compare this with Jimmy Savile. We're talking about apples and oranges here. But stay there for a second, Jerry. Let me just go to James as well. James, hi, how are you?
Hi, Niall. How are you keeping?
Good, James. Are you familiar with the show?
I'm very familiar with the show. I watch it all the time, and I watch all the cooking shows, Niall, and I suppose I rang in there with a point I was making. You be on about the shows and the type of shows that's kind of allow this type of talk, and you wouldn't expect it from MasterChef. But if anybody has ever watched British Bake Off, which is a baking show, same thing, they're constantly at it all the time. They were doing a competition there where they had to bake a kind of a showstopper cake, and one of the women baked a beaver, and they were saying, come on up and give us a good look at your beaver. And they were all skitting, laughing, thinking it was funny, but because one of the judges was a woman, it was okay. There was nobody said anything about it.
Whereas you're saying if a man said that, it would be deemed inappropriate. Yeah.
Of course, because I watched it again. They were doing one last week and they were baking hot cross buns, and she was talking about how crusty the buns were. Your buns are lovely and crusty. And again, everyone was giggling, but it's the same thing. I actually believe that the BBC are jumping on this because they got stung in the past with presenters and not doing what they were meant to do when serious stuff was happening in the BBC. So I think they're at the stage now is that when anything happens at all, they're jumping on it. Like as you said, to talk about a victim of somebody said, so it's actually off the wall. I guarantee you, if you go through most of the daytime shows we've out there today, I guarantee you it's the same kind of comments are being said across the board on all different genders, but people are they're jumping on this now with him because of the fact he's a man. But as you're saying, like, okay, maybe we shouldn't be talking like that. But if that's the case, it should be across the board, not just in, like, you're saying daytime MasterChef. British Bake Off is more of a family thing again because it's baking cakes and baking buns or whatever, but it's constant. If you even YouTube it now, British Bake Off, beaver cake, you'll see straight away, you'll see the clip I'm talking about immediately, and they'll all laugh and joke about it, but it's a woman who said it, so they're not going to say anything.
Okay, so you believe it's because if a man had said that, it would be a different kettle of fish and somebody would complain about it. Yeah, I get it.
Without doubt, but the point I'm making as well is I actually believe that the BBC are just jumping now because
they're paranoid.
They've made mistakes. They are paranoid.
Yeah, gee, I was going to say that, James. To be fair, they have made massive mistakes in the past. Massive mistakes where they've ignored stuff they shouldn't have ignored. I.e., somebody mentioned Jimmy Savile earlier on, and obviously Hugh Edwards as well, who was allowed to continue to work when there was serious accusations against him.
And as you said, the people come out of the woodwork, like as the last caller said there, they touched their bottom with their waist, as you said.
Yeah, he asked, could he squeeze past? Yeah, and he went past her and touched her bottom with his waist. Yeah.
Christ, if that's the case, we'd all be in prison because you go into any busy pub on a Saturday night, you have to squeeze past everybody just to get in all the toilet. Let alone, like, I just think that in the UK at the moment, the media and the government, or as you started off tonight saying how crap they are at the moment, right? And it's just another smoke screen to take away what's going on with the economy and everything else over in the UK. Let's throw, as you said, every newspaper has him up there today. You swear that it was the end of the world. He hasn't committed any crime in any way or form, right? There's no victims. They might call him victims, but there's no victims of what he's done. But yes, the country is on its knees. The sterling is a crap. Their own government is crap, but yet every newspaper is running with him saying these words. And as I said, if you go across, like Phil and Hollies used to say, that show was constantly with Gino, the chef that was on the way. He used to say things all the time, every morning.
I remember that, yeah, Gino, yeah, there was constant sexual innuendo. And the two of them breaking their shite laughing constantly all the time. And that was a breakfast television. Yeah, family entertainment.
And people accepted it. I actually think that the government are using this as a smokescreen, the English government, because it's taken away everything that's going on in the country. Like, as you said, someone said a victim, even to call someone like that a victim because he said something.
Yeah, they had a woman on today on the television, I saw it, and they introduced her as one of his victims.
What a load of horse, I won't even say it, crap. Like, when I hear it...
I did listen to her, and look, she seemed upset. I did listen to her. She said she'd been on the show 6 or 7 times or something like that as a guest judge or at one stage as a chef or something like that. And she said she was embarrassed and humiliated by some of the jibes that he made. And... But to refer to her, now, there was never a suggestion by her that he sexually touched her or did anything like that to her. But what I'm saying is to suggest that, you know, she was a victim of words. Can you be a victim of words?
But you can, of course, you can be a victim of words.
Sorry, Jerry?
Yeah.
If you're just a victim, why do you keep coming back to the show?
Well, they feel, and I was looking at one piece where it said, they felt they couldn't complain about him because he was so high up. And obviously they're trying to further their own careers as well. So they felt he was in a position of power. So they felt nobody would listen if they complained.
That just brings back, I'm going to say, that just brings me back again. And I know there's no comparison, doesn't even come close. That's a comparison, a direct comparison to Jimmy Savile, what she just said. That nobody complained about Jimmy Savile because he was in a position of power. They're now comparing him to Jimmy Savile.
Well, I don't think so. No one is accusing him of sexual assault as such. Well, apart from one or two people suggesting that he brushed off them or touched off them or something like that. I don't think anybody is accusing him of direct sexual assault at this moment in time. But then more and more people are coming forward now. How you doing, Martin? Martin, there is a case to be had that, you know, when men and women interact, particularly in the workplace, and this is a workplace, of course, because it's the BBC and you're on a television show, that you read the room. And, you know, and that goes in daily life too. You know, there's certain friends you may have as females, Martin, that you can have a bit of a jibe with, you can have fun with because you know the type of people they are. There are other people that you know you can't. You have to be careful how you word things because they're different type of people. And it just looks like to me, Greg Wallace just didn't read the room. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah. Good evening, Niall. I'm familiar with the programme. I've seen it quite a few times, you know, over a period of years, because I like to cook. But if I could just say, first off, isn't the world a wonderful place that Keir Starmer has nothing more important to worry about? I mean, really, you know. Mm-hmm. But what gets me is and I said it in the text there, the monumental hypocrisy. I said in the text, I'm not a gambler, but I would bet that a high proportion of these women who claim that the things he said, now I don't know the context. I didn't see any of those things. So I believe in context. Let me see the entire conversation or what happened. If you take very small parts out of something, and we see it all the time. You saw it with Trump. Things being taken, you know, just snippets of
without the line before it and the line after, yeah. So like everything has to be contextualized, but the hypocrisy is what gets me. I mean, I would say there's a high proportion of these women who would claim that they felt they were being objectified, and then they would quite happily go home and watch
in my opinion, and forgive the word I'm going to use, I don't like using it on the air, but they'd go home and they'd watch that Love Island shite. And on that, women and men are being objectified. I mean,
but the argument is, Martin, if you're watching Love Island or I'm a Celebrity or whatever type of reality program it is, you expect that behaviour. It comes back to audience expectation. Like, for example, I mentioned earlier on, people use bad language every now and again on this show, right? I do try to curtail it sometimes, right, if people are using it for no particular reason. But so there is an expectation. So nobody is going to complain to the Broadcasting Authority, or as they call Commissioner Mann now, and they have in the past. And the reaction from Commissioner Mann and the Broadcasting Authority in the past is they will reject the complaint and say there's an audience expectation. It's after 9 o'clock at night. People know the type of show it is. It can be coarse. It can be controversial, and people do bad language. But if you complained about somebody doing it on the Pat Kenny show, you would probably get your objection and your complaint upheld because it's not to be expected. It's not audience expectation. Isn't that the argument that MasterChef shouldn't contain that type of thing? That's what. You know what I mean? That's not the time and the place.
Yeah, I get that, but I mean, I have seen him. I have seen Greg Wallace, and he's to me,
brash. He's brash.
He's not just that. He's your stereotypical kind of Cockney. You know, you've got to expect a certain level of kind of where he comes from, what his background is. But I still come back to, I understand what you're saying. There are expectations. Now, I've seen the program, you know, well, probably a dozen times or more. As you know, I don't even have a television, but I have been at my sister's or, you know, wherever else I'd be, and I'd be on and I'd see it. And I don't recall ever, now, okay, as I say, it was only a dozen times or so, I don't recall ever seeing or hearing him say something that I would regard as inappropriate. I mean,
but as somebody texted earlier on, is it appropriate for him to turn around to a woman and say, you know, I'm not wearing any boxer shorts?
Well, did he say that on air?
I assume so. I don't know. But seemingly he said a lot.
You're making an assumption.
Yeah, but I don't know. I haven't watched the programme. And there are so many accusations against him about things he has said and done. So you could take your pick at this stage, right? But just somebody who I assume knows that he said that. Maybe that's it. I'll actually Google it and say, okay. I'm pretty sure I'm putting Greg Wallace in boxer shorts.
Sorry, Niall. What I would say is, look, that show I'm sure doesn't go out live. Okay, so you know, in the editing suite, why did somebody not say, listen, edit that out? If it was going out on air, you know, they're compiling the tapes, they're putting the program together. Why did somebody not say, edit that out? You know, this is a cookery program. We don't need it. Now, if it wasn't said in front of the camera with an intention for it to go on air, it's a storm in a teacup. It really is. It's complete, utter nonsense.
I mean, okay, here's some of the other allegations, right? 19 years ago, somebody said that she called him a racist piece of shit and claimed he impersonated an Indian accent in front of a staff member who was Indian. Kirsty Allsop, presenter, you know Kirsty Allsop, she's a famous presenter. She became the latest person to make accusations against him.
I don't actually.
Well, she does that almost one of those property shows, but the other fella. Anyway, she's all right. Anyway, she said that he made inappropriate remarks when she said he referred to sex acts shortly after meeting her on the set of Location. That's the program she does. Within 1 hour of meeting Greg Wallace, he told me of a sex act that he had with his partner. Now, that's obviously in a private conversation. That wasn't on television, right? In a private conversation. So, are we now at a point where we're making accusations against people in private conversations? Because throughout the years, everybody's had private conversations with people where they might have said something about sexual acts or innuendos or, you know what I mean? There's nothing. Can I clarify? It's not illegal to do that. If you don't like what somebody says, you just don't talk to them anymore.
No, it's not. And I'm not just saying this. I have never, ever, ever been one for locker room talk, not in front of men or women.
I know it was I, because I'm not the type that goes to a pub. I don't hang out with the lads.
Exactly.
I'm not that type of guy.
Neither am I. But at the same time, I've heard locker room talk. Now, if a man says to me, he was, a married man says he was out last night and he did this, that, and the other with some other woman, as far as I'm concerned, you do that on your wife. You think you're bonding with me? You're not. I would if you would do that on your wife or your partner, you will stab me in the back at the first opportunity.
But Martin, if somebody said that to me, I just ignore them, because the thing about it is, right?
If it was just general banter or whatever, locker room talk kind of thing. To me, it's kind of It's
okay, but the difference is, Martin, you're not in television, and I suppose that's it, isn't it?
Okay,
you're not famous.
I get that, Niall. But what I'm saying is, it seems that, in this day and age, so many people, the first thing in the morning, their head pops off the pillow and they want to think, how can I be a victim today? Now, as I say, to me, it's monumental hypocrisy. I do recall an occasion where I was with, my industry, Niall, and one of the major retailer that I have to deal with, and I overheard a girl, and I had heard this girl numerous times, especially, that's what I'm talking about, this Love Island crap, and how much she loves it. And yet, she was highly offended when a delivery driver wolf whistled her. He's objectifying me, and she made a complaint. And I mean,
I know there is a level of hypocrisy here, particularly when it happens personally to somebody. But stay there a second, Martin. I want to go to Jim. I don't think I'm going to get to Margaret before the break. Jim, hi, how are you?
Not too bad, Niall.
How you doing? I've got about 3 minutes there, Jim. Go ahead. Jim, do you watch MasterChef before we start? Are you familiar with Greg Wallace?
I haven't had a television for 20 years, but I've seen him years ago when he's on the BBC, Niall. I know what you're talking about.
Okay. What's your view of him?
Yeah.
What's your view of him?
Well, we're living in an age of perpetually offended, Niall. What's wrong with people? About something happened 17 years ago. He obviously never had anything hard in their life, if that's all he has to complain about. And it takes it degrades proper victims, all this bullshit. So it does.
I'm okay. There was a complaint in 2012 to the BBC by Emma Kennedy. Said she complained about the presenter to production staff in 2012 after allegedly he touched one of the woman's bottoms. Now again, I don't know. Obviously, we don't know if that's true. It's an alleged, situation. We don't know whether that's true or not.
That's terrible.
Niall.
Yes.
What is wrong with people?
Sorry, if I could just say very quickly, I've just Googled who you were talking about there. The lady with the property program, and
Kirsty Allsop.
Yeah. Now she is apparently a multimillionaire.
She is.
She's very successful at what she does. I don't imagine she's a shrinking violet in business. Why did she not just call him out and say, "Listen, pal, button the lip"? I find that offensive. I guarantee you, in her business dealings, she's well capable of dealing with people who say inappropriate things or whatever else. She's just latched on to this situation. I mean, I can only tell you that my daughters certainly inherited my mother's attitude. If you said something inappropriate in front of one of my daughters, or there's something that they found offensive, they wouldn't shrink away and go, "Oh, I'm being victimized." They'd let you have it. Now, they're not abusive. I don't mean that they go around looking to be victimized, but they're grown women. As far as they're concerned, they're grown women. They have children. They'd stand up for themselves. That's what's wrong with the world. We have people who, this whole Me Too movement thing. I understand. I'm not taking away from anyone, men or women or children, who've been assaulted and who've been real victims. But as was just said there, this diminishes real victims. It's total garbage.
A letter containing several allegations of inappropriate behaviour to Wallace was sent to the BBC in 2022, but it didn't prompt further investigation, where women had said that he had there was unwelcomed sexual innuendo and sexual jokes.
Oh, God.
Anyway, I got to take a break, and I'm not going to get to Margaret before the break. Margaret, I'm going to have to come back to you after the break, and I do apologise. And I'm sorry for being so short with Jim there too as well. You can let us know how you feel about this, if you have any quick thoughts on it, because I have to wrap this up and move on in a second. I do want to talk about transition year. If you have any thoughts on it, obviously we live in very different times. People get that, and a lot of the TV stuff that we would have seen years ago wouldn't be appropriate nowadays because people get offended. I don't get offended. Things don't offend me. I'm not the type that gets offended. But clearly some people do get highly offended by what they call highly inappropriate comments about sex. Now, by the way, his lawyers have defended him. And they said, I'm just looking here, hold on, I guess what his lawyers said. Let's see. His lawyers have suggested that he engages in behaviour of, Wallace's lawyers have said the suggestion that he engages in behaviour of a sexual harassing nature is entirely false. He took aim at his accusers on Instagram as well on Sunday, saying, I've been doing MasterChef for 20 years, amateur, celebrity and professional MasterChef, and I think in that time I have worked with over 4,000 contestants, all of different ages and all different backgrounds, all walks of life. He says, in 20 years, over 20 years of television, can you imagine how many women, female contestants of MasterChef, have made sexual remarks or sexual innuendo? Can you imagine? In other words, he accuses women of doing it as well. Why is he just being picked on? In other words, is the point I suppose he's trying to make. But he denies all allegations and said it's been taken completely out of context, according to what he's saying. Anyway, let me know how you feel. Maybe you feel that, look, the time and the place for that type of, as some people are still referring it to today in the news, misogynistic behaviour is well and truly over. Somebody says, Niall, I've been watching the news and really intrigued by this story all day. I've yet to be shocked by any of the allegations that have been made. Yes, I think a lot of it is slightly inappropriate and maybe a word should be had. But I've seen worse on other television shows, live on television, not just in the background. I think he is being made a scapegoat for the problems that are going on in Britain at the moment. I know people are saying that. And I do think it's inappropriate, by the way, of the Prime Minister of the country to get involved in it. Like, it's not that big of a deal of the Prime Minister of the country, but they're making it that big of a deal, I suppose. Really, I suppose, yeah. Let me go to Margaret. Margaret, hi, how are you?
Hi, Niall. How are you, Pat?
Good.
You well?
Good. Oh, yeah, I'm feeling a bit better. I had a cold all week. Myself and Karen were kind of caught out with a really bad dose, So we were both on antibiotics, but I feel a lot better now.
Oh, God love you. Well, look, the girl next door, her husband and the two children were all down with it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have it at the moment. AJ as well, my producer, has it. I think a lot of people have it at the moment. So it's going around. It's going around. Do you take care of yourself, Margaret? Make sure you don't get it.
Well, don't worry. I tell you, I take my vitamins. I take multivitamins.
You're right. Margaret, let me get back to this topic. Do you watch MasterChef?
I do.
Okay.
I love it.
Oh, you love it. Okay, so you're familiar with Greg Wallace and the type of person he is. Yeah. Now, obviously, some of the stuff happened on television, some of it happened in the background during filming. I mean, do you think he's inappropriate? Do you think he's crude, rude?
You know what, Niall? I've said it before. The world has gone totally mad. Political correctness. And, if you're passing somebody, as one of the other lads said there, being on the train and at packed capacity, and you're saying, excuse me, because you might see another place, slightly.
Yeah, can I just squeeze past you there? Yeah.
And is somebody going to turn around and say to me, excuse me, you've touched me. Don't you touch me. Really? Hello? Trying to get by you. And I think, now, I don't know the man. Never met the man. Only see him on TV. Seems to come across as a very professional person, and no.
Well, from his television appearance, you're saying that. Yeah. Obviously, you don't know him.
Don't know him. No. But you know what? It's all about the ching-ching, ding-a-ling. The bank account is going to be filled, and that's the way society's gone now. And people will sue over anything.
Well, there's not. I don't think there's any suggestion anybody's suing him. I'm not suggesting for a minute that anybody coming forward is maybe telling lies or anything like that. But certainly, I would suggest that some people might be doing it to improve their own careers.
Niall, he's doing such a good job. there's obviously people being jealous of the man doing such a professional job. And
when they don't claim he's doing a professional job. They're saying he's unprofessional.
Well, I think again, Niall, I'm only looking at the TV, and he always comes across as very professional, and like he seems to come across like
yeah,
that,
but you can't judge somebody on their appearance on television alone, because we have numerous examples of people on television, like Hugh Edwards, for example, the BBC newsreader. Of course, he came across very professional on the air. Little did we know in the background, that he was flirting and sending images or getting inappropriate images from a young man.
Niall, there's an awful lot more things going on in the world, at the moment, and we all know that, and we can see it even.
But I understand there is a lot more important things maybe going on in the world, but these things to some people are very important as well. That's what they're arguing. That's what they will argue. Yeah.
Look, I mean, if they feel that the guy has done something extremely wrong, go to a solicitor. Get his advice.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's nothing illegal about, inappropriate innuendo. There's nothing illegal. It's not illegal. Like if me and you are out somewhere, I meet you, Margaret, and I tell you a dirty joke or something, or I tell you something like that, and you're pissed off about it. That's fine. You can be pissed off, but it's not illegal. You know what I mean?
Niall, people don't know when to have a laugh. That's the problem. If you said the joke to me and I said the joke to you, and you turn around and say, Margaret, I don't think that's very appropriate coming out of your mouth. You're a lady. You shouldn't be talking like that. Yeah. I'm offended. Yeah,
that's just my opinion, and I'd be entitled to it. But it doesn't mean you've done something wrong.
Now, real people, real opinions. Nighttime Talk with Niall Boylan.
Ireland's Classic Hits Radio.